In an interview, Bob Iger once said that the theme parks were threatened because Florida is too hot. While that might be true, we have a different conclusion here on That Park Place, that the price of the parks might just be too high. Let's talk about that here on That Park Place. The other day on That Park Place Live, we had a super chat from Space Dave that incited a conversation that we are all eager to talk about, and that is the rising cost of Walt Disney World theme park experiences. Whether that's cruise lines, hotels, or of course the theme parks themselves, with Genie Plus, dining experiences, the rising cost of food, or more. We've talked about pricing in the past as people who are very familiar with the parks, but now we're opening up the discussion to the group, and I think you'll find this very interesting. Space Dave 2000 for 20 bucks. Hey, thank you very much. So I'm a huge Disney World fan. I loved it
Disney.
since I first started attending with the family since 2013, but I will never ever attend again after the last price hike. It was insulting to know that Disney has no self-awareness. Well, they gotta pay for that $60 billion that they're pretending is a lot of money out of somewhere. Also, I have the report up here. Let me just see if I. This from Needham. They were at the investor meeting. Growth will be driven by volume increases, not price. Disney has maxed out price, it seems, and now has a good mix of full price and annual pass holders in the park.
This is what blew my mind, by the way, is that right after we saw this, and I knew it was true. I mean, I have talked to so many people who are like, man, and you add up the cost of the tickets. There was a family that put this out there. Jonas, do you remember where this went out? Was this private to us, or was this a tweet?
This went out everywhere.
Well, we can do it right now. We can do it right now.
So 3 days at Disneyland was over $3,000 for a normal family.
Yeah, it was a family of 6. So 2 adults, 4 kids, plus Genie plus park hoppers.
Right.
Yeah.
That didn't take into account the food. And so, you could say, well, I'm going to sneak in a sandwich, and you can do that. You don't actually have to sneak it in. They'll let you bring it in. But, I mean, the average person is going to have to get some snacks and some food. And that's where they raise those prices again. Of course, parking as well. But every vending item essentially went up in price. And people, I mean, here it is in the report. They were already maxed out. You can't go higher. Here's my theory on this. I think that they went higher because the crowd levels are not where they need. And they have a set cost that goes out every day. They are stuck spending a particular amount of money. And so those set costs, they've got to make up for it with these low crowd levels. We've taken a look at this in the past. What's the website that drops out the queue times, the average queue times? Vash, do you remember?
Mouse weight, touring plans.
Touring plans, thank you.
Right.
We've seen the touring plans data. And we've never seen a year like this. In 2023, it is steadily dropping. And normally what you see is these peaks and valleys of peak season, off season. No, this year it's just dropping. So I think that's why they're raising these prices, despite the fact that financial advisors are saying, you can't go any higher. They're tapped out.
I've covered the parks for a long time, and usually there is a yearly price increase and some scattered pricing throughout the year. But we have never seen them, and usually that amounts to, okay, we're gonna raise annual pass prices in the spring. We're gonna raise ticket prices in the summer. We're gonna raise food prices in late summer. All these kind of things. They did it on one single day, very, very aggressively. We have not seen that before, and so you have to wonder why, especially in light of, well, the current state of the economy, but also those investors' comments that Jonas brought up before. And you just have to presume, I think it has to do with, well, as VR would probably note, right? The start of their fiscal year started on October 1st. So you want to make this this new fiscal year coming out with a bang, right? Maybe, hey, fiscal year 2024, wasn't that when Disney Plus was going to be profitable? Maybe, you had to push that target off, and so you want to offset that in some way. Well, here you go. Here's a big bump from the Parks division. Also, too, look, we're on the cusp of another film coming out here that might underperform. 40% down from tracking from Eternals, right? 50% down from Quantumania, and we know.
What's funny is I didn't know which one you were referring to until you lowered it down to Marvel as opposed to the animation studio,
right? Well, exactly. So they've struck out. That would be what, the 5th bomb that they've had this year. Where is that money actually going to come from? Investors are going to be looking at any division in which could offset these these lower drivers.
The parks are the whipping boy. That's what this is.
That's true.
The parks and those who love them, they're the
Absolutely.
whipping boy. They're going to take the beating, and I think they're tired of it. I think they're going to
They
say
have been for years, by the way.
Yep.
Going back to John Carter and all those bombs.
Well, to what you said, just to clarify things. So a couple of things in there.
Please.
First of all, I mean, investors, you're right on the money with the price increases. I covered in videos, might have been 6-8 months ago. I can't remember when exactly, but you had Wall Street publications talking about how Disney was effectively tapped out at the park pricing, right? That there was no elasticity left, considering they had gone through this spike, this post-COVID spike when the parks opened back up and people were able to flood back in, especially the international guests, which spend much more than domestic visitors per capita.
Which kind of explains the lack of enthusiasm for the $60 billion from the Parks Division, right? From investors.
Exactly. Well, you notice most of where they're spending this is going to be overseas. There was an article from our friend Caroline Reed today in Forbes about Disneyland Paris, which I sent to Pro earlier tonight. I'm like, this is right up your alley. Check this out, what Caroline was talking about. That is one thing, right? Parks have always been the golden goose for Disney. And behind that has come broadcast television. Well, what is Disney having problems with now? Broadcast TV and the parks. When you take a division, okay, like theatrical, and you release bomb after bomb after bomb after bomb, which is exactly what's happened with Disney. And we called this months ago, right? Did the whole, breakdown financially. Here's the revenues. Here's the costs. A lot of that came from Caroline Reed's reporting on Forbes, and then plus the box office analysis that we do. The problem is that woke Wall Street up to like, well, wait a minute. Now they're having trouble in this division. My point is there's no covering for that.
Right.
There's no, the parks did a little bit better than we hoped.
Right.
But wait a minute, you've got this other division now that has been solid as a rock since the 90s, virtually. Maybe some lulls in there in the early 2000s, but still they'd never had disaster after disaster. This is yet another new problem for Disney.
Right. And
they're not going to ignore this.
Right. And I'll point out that Peltz knows this very well, and he's put it in his SEC filings, and he's put it in his proxy fight statements that go out to shareholders to say that the Disney company should not be subsidizing bad content with parks revenues. And that now that the parks are suffering, even more so, they should not be subsidizing bad movies with parks revenue.
And here's what's critical about what VR is saying here. I mean, if Comcast has a couple of films that come out don't do well, they're a telecommunications company. It's fine. It's an auxiliary business. Walt Disney Company is known for being a studio. So when your studio, and a lot of these investors know that if the studio division is not doing well, that synergistic flywheel that Chapek talked about and others, that feed into whatever the studio products is putting out, whether it be merchandise, revenue, attractions to the theme parks, etc. If that's not doing well, especially with 5 box office bombs, you can't hide that. They are a studio first and foremost, and that fuels the entire company.
Do you think the parks are getting too expensive? Do you think that we're giving other theme parks a pass by not pointing out their price increases? Of course, leave a comment down below if you've got something to say, or get in touch with us on social media at the handles above or in the description down below. Like this video if we are worthy of that. Subscribe if you're interested in what we're throwing down. And of course, stay tuned to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com for all the news that should be fun. Don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.